What's the greatest experience you have had in 2020? It's a wild year, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I went. I would say it's the trip I just took recently to Croatia, Greece, and Italy. Um, I got engaged on that trip in Dubrovnik, so that was
Oh,
fantastic. It was
that's amazing.
yeah,
Dubrovnik is.
yeah, yeah. And I just travel around, and I just really um, just really like every time we were kind of boating around and went biking in places and discovering and learning, and that's really my thing, like
Mhm.
it was fantastic. And I would have never went to Croatia. This is Croatia is one of the places would be last on my list to travel to, right? I would be like, oh, why am I going to travel? I can go to Italy or go whatever. But it was the only place that was open, that
Mhm.
allowed people to travel to. And then once you were in Croatia, if you did 2 weeks in Croatia, other EU countries would be like, okay, you don't have COVID, you've been in the EU
Yeah.
2 weeks. Now you can come to
Mhm.
Italy. Now you can go here. And it was a wonderful place. I was
Mhm.
blown away by visiting Croatia, and I was all around it for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I mean, it was just great, and so that was fantastic. And the other thing I really enjoyed was, um, my kids would say this is the worst part, but I was in a situation where my kids were forced to be with me a lot, remote schooling, in whatever. And it's not like you just the touches, right? They're not like high quality touches like, some Hallmark card and we had these dramatic moments. It might even be like, Dad, you're annoying, or Dad, you're whatever. But I
Mm.
was there and I was with them and I got to see them. And that was a huge benefit of them switching to remote schooling and being with me and et cetera. So I really enjoyed that as well.
Mm. The whole family being together, huh?
Yeah, it's like something like, life goes by fast, and next thing you know, they're out and they're on, they don't want to be with you, et cetera. And then we had this thing that forced us to be
Mhm.
together more all the time. Like that was annoying as hell to them, but for me, I was like, this is great. I would have never gotten this time otherwise.
Mm. What is your view on homeschooling and, well, educational system as well? Because I mean, what you teach is not exactly what they teach at the school, right?
Yeah, I mean, oh wow, that's such a big, broad, huge topic. I mean, I'm gonna be talking out of school, like out of my area expertise,
Mhm.
because you're like asking about the system, homeschooling. I see benefits to homeschooling, a lot of benefits. Like my kids play soccer against a homeschooling league. Like the
Mhm.
homeschoolers,
Okay.
oh, the homeschoolers, they have their own soccer. They create their own soccer league and they create their own sports team. So like a lot of people,
Mhm.
oh, how do your kid get socialized or whatever? I was like, actually, they get socialized properly,
Some more.
right? Yeah,
Some.
and they don't necessarily pick up the bad habits of of kids experimenting on how to socialize by forming
Mm.
groups and bullying and all this other stuff because their parents have gone through it and they're obviously wiser and they're
Mm.
in a controlled environment, and then they sign them up for track and field and soccer and all these other things in these homeschooling clubs. So it's like the Houston, I don't know what the name of the team is, but it's Houston
Mhm.
homeschooling, whatever. And I think, you know, um, here in the U.S., education needs competition. Kids
Mhm.
are forced to go to school based on their zip code, which creates all kinds of biases and all kinds of legacy problems, right? And so I'm for school choice, and I guess homeschooling is a version of choice. It's kind of the only one you have right now,
Mm.
uh, and I think the curriculums are kind of they're not useful. I just told I was just this is so funny that I had this conversation. I was just ranting and raving. I said, the net present value formula is something I use intuitively or explicitly almost every day of my life.
Mhm.
Right, the ability to net present value cash flows, experiences, everything. Right, what's the value of $200 2 years from now today? It's the value of this lease. Is this interest rate right? Is whatever, blah, blah, blah. Intuitively or explicitly every single day. I can do a survey. Nobody knows. Nobody uses it. Financial literacy isn't taught, right?
Mhm.
But my daughter is in school and she's obsessing on how to stretch and transform, a function or equation or et cetera, something she will never, ever do. You
Mm.
know what I mean? In life, like she has no interest in it. It's not appealing to her. Yes, the logic of it and trying to figure a problem is, But this is the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
She's spending hours of her life focusing on something that she wouldn't use. And although it's teaching her logic skills, she can be taught logic skills in another class that's more engaging, more important in a skill set that she's going to use. And so, my opinion is like school is so geared to like getting a job. Well, it's really geared towards getting into a college.
Yeah.
Right. It's a hack.
Mm.
Like these kids are hacking tests to get good grades, to hack the interview process, to get into a college, to hack that, to get in a job. Right. It's not actual learning.
No.
And it's hacking. I mean, there is learning, but I'm like, it's hacking tests and hacking systems is more important than actually learning. And that, I don't know how that changes. I have no solution. I mean, it needs to change, but
What would you add to school if still we need to send kids to school? What would you add? Would that be the financial?
I mean, I would change. It's such a broad thing, but I would change the curriculum, a lot of the curriculum and what's going on, and change like this grade focus thing hack, right? Like let's take the SATs. This is one of the things that is changing is the reliance on the SATs. Okay. In a kid who takes an SAT prep class, the better ones will move their grades 2 standard deviations. 2 standard deviations just from taking the prep class or whatever, these class, right? They're expensive, right? They have these expensive courses, which teach you how to take the test, etc. So that means the average rich kid gets a 1540 to 1600 on the SATs, and the impoverished kid gets the 1200, 1050, 1100, whatever, right? Whereas if he had the course, he'd be 2 standard deviations higher, right? So parents know this, kids know this. They're hacking the SAT, right? Like I don't need to learn. I'm not expressing that I'm a well-diversified kid. I'm expressing that I can hack this goddamn test, right? That's going to get me into X, Y, and Z school that is good, and that they think is going to get me X, Y, and Z job or career path or connections, et cetera, right? And so all these biases, these economic biases, et cetera, are built in the system, and it's moving away from learning to hacking, right? And you see larger institutions like Google, they're like, we don't care what school you went to, right? You demonstrate an aptitude, whatever. And you see a lot of colleges going SAT out, right? Right. There's a movement to that for that, because this whole structure of learning and college as a gateway to a better job, et cetera. One, the value proposition is diminishing, and 2, it's turned into this great big hack.
Yeah, I never thought of like the word hack there, but it is, because I cheated all over through like my high school into university. I was like, I just wanted like, okay, I need that diploma for us to like look okay, because for us like to get a BA is like you have to have it. Like university is so cheap, like you have to have it. We don't have debts like you have. Our university is like $3,000 a year, so it's cheap. And I got a scholarship, but I was paying a girl who was in master's, so she would write all the thesis, everything. And I was working at that time because I was like, I was hacking everything. I hacked the hackers.
It's not even like you're doing it like kind of, let's say, out of the bounds of like what is acceptable, out of integrity hacking. But even the what's acceptable is a hack. It's like whatever.
But there was no chance of learning all that. We had like 90 questions for exams, all like 3 pages long. It's like rota memory. Like it doesn't, like it can't perceive that much. I'm sorry, guys. I was studying history.
The utility of it is useless. It's a lot of it is like spending a lot of time on useless information or a useless process, and this whole system is built upon it, and it's got to change. But I could talk about that for hours, and I'd probably be talking about some of the shit I don't know what I'm talking. I'm not the expert, but that's kind of
it's also interesting, from how you view life, and then also because you have kids, like I have homeschooled other kids for other parents, and I love homeschooling, but there's also like the aspect that the networking, and kids sometimes love school. Like some kids, you send them from homeschool and they go to school and they just love it.
Yeah, they absolutely, but they need those choices. I mean, for my kids to go to college, it's more about having the experience
Mhm.
When I went to college, my mom was like, look, you want to go into college and get a job, go to a trade school. Go to college to
Mhm.
learn whatever you
Mm.
want to do. Don't worry about the job, right?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of her message. It's like, you're going to learn, and a lot of people are, the plus is, I gotta go to this college, I gotta get good grades so I can get a job at IBM or wherever. And then,
Mm.
that was sold to us back then, right? Like that was the path, right? You stayed in this ladder and whatever. And, my mindset was going, I wanted to go learn what I knew I was never going to do, because as a
Mhm.
job, it would be torture, but it was interesting to learn. Right. And even then I didn't learn it that much because I just chased girls all around campus.
That was
Right.
your experience.
That was my experience. Right.
Yeah.
But the idea that like college as a jobs program's got to die. It's not.
Mm.
That's not what it's meant to be. It's a higher learning institution. And we should be people that demonstrate they have the capability and ability to learn and want to learn should go. And that should be the reason you go. Right.
Yeah.
I want to pay this job because it's going to lever me into it's going to cost me $100,000, but the net present value of the degree is 120. So therefore, I'm going to make $20,000 versus going straight to work. Like that calculation
Mm.
that's not what college is about. That's what trade school is about. You don't need to go to college.